Men of Reddit who proposed and she said no. What happened afterwards with your life? My mum actually said no to my dad's proposal when they were younger. Not because they weren't in love, but because she wasn't sure if it was something she actually wanted to do, rather than something that society expected of her or whatever. They still stayed together and had kids, hence why you're reading this now. And then when my dad was terminally ill a few years ago, my mum plucked up the courage and asked him. Just to get her back after all those years, he said no before taking her up on the offer a few days later. He died a happy man. I'm so sorry for your loss. That was a beautiful story. I am so touched by your story. I am sorry for your loss, but feel warm inside knowing the love your dad had during his life. Thanks for your courage to share. We lived together for another 6 years until she changed her mind and told me that I should ask again. We were engaged for over a year and got married in 1991. We are still married, have 3 children, and are both still very much in love. Why the initial no? This one's sweet. She said yes on the second proposal and now we're divorced. After reading all these stories, I laughed when I read this. Not at your misfortune, but at how succinct it was. Man, this comments section is like the autobahn with speed bumps. Hope you're doing alright these days. She had cancer. I said we should get married because I had full medical coverage from my work. She said no, and over time we grew apart. Haven't talked to her in 15 years. Don't know if she died. That's sad as hell, man. Sorry about that. Jeez man, that's rough. I'm sorry. My dad proposed to a woman who said no. My dad was a violent alcoholic and she said she couldn't be with him unless he got clean. Took him a little while, but he did it. He wound up meeting my mom through a matchmaker and they've been married 25 years. If that woman never said no to him, he never would have gotten clean. It was the lowest points in his life, but it all brought him to my mom who makes him happier than ever. My dad talks to her sometimes. She got married to someone else and they had a son who died from a medical condition. Well, that story went well until the last 6 words. That's a good ending, except for what happened to the little boy. Rest in peace. I asked her right out of high school, but she wasn't ready. We stayed together, went to college at the same school, spent the first year in separate dorms, then moved in together. Got married a few years later. Our 20th is coming up. What a wholesome story. Unilateral faces. Short and sweet. My husband asked 3 times in the span of a couple months. We had dated for 3 years. He was ready. I wanted to graduate college first. Also, don't propose by handing your sewer ring while you're both in the car on the way to Burger King. I'm low maintenance, but put some thought into it. Put some thought. My soon-to-be ex-husband never really asked. He was like, well, that can be arranged, and that was it. We got married a few weeks later. Hindsight 20/20. The level of respect, haha. Dated a woman for over 2 years and popped the question. First time she said I don't know. A couple months later I asked her again. She said maybe. I was pretty bent out of shape. But then I found out she was sleeping with several of my friends, so I dodged a bullet there really. Damn dude, I'm sorry about your friends. Genuine shocks bags of people to knowingly sleep with your girl. I hope you find better friends. Sounds like you dodged a gang shootout, mate. Those weren't your friends, colon. So this actor, Patrick Moot, proposes to his girlfriend at a basketball game and gets turned down while on the giant jumbotron. Clip goes on YouTube. etc. etc. She tells him later that she turned him down because she thinks his beep is too small. So he travels around the world, documenting what other cultures think about penis size and penis enlargement, and made a movie about it called Unhung Hero. https://en Wikipedia. Org Wiki Unhung Hero. I've never watched it, but the title alone makes me laugh. I've seen that movie and it really was fascinating. He has a booming TikTok account these days. God, I thought that would be a joke. As a woman who was engaged and the proposal was later revoked, it still stings a little 11 years later. When you're sure you're with the love of your life, losing them can really pop a hole in your life plans. When did you start to feel better? It's been 7 months and I still can't believe we're not getting married. I miss him and our dog and our house every day, but according to him, he ruined everything and doesn't want me back because our relationship will always be damaged. I feel like I've died. Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content. My mom told my dad no when he proposed to her even though they were already living together. She thought he was impotent and it wasn't until she got pregnant that she said yes. In retrospect, I wish my parents had decided early in their relationship that they can barely stand each other. I think you meant infertile. Impotence is an inability to perform sexual, normally referring to not being able to maintain an erection. You do mean infertile? Because being impotent is kind of unambiguous. This is the story of my parents. My dad asked my mom to marry him several times. She said no, several times. One day my dad asked my mom to marry him, yet again. She said yes. He freaked out and left her apartment and dumped her. 3 weeks later he hated his life without her and begged her to take him back and marry him. They were married 9 months later for 16 years until my mom passed from cancer. They loved each other so much and had such a deep appreciation for each other. That was 25 years ago. My dad has not remarried. No one will ever come close to my mama. Dad, marry me. Mom, no. Dad, marry me. Mom, no. Dad, marry me. Mom, yes. Dad, well now I am not doing it. Dad, marry me. Mom, okay. Dad, what 8 I am out. Wild ride, but I'm glad it worked out for them. Red heart. About 2 years later I met my wife of 22 years. We are happily married. The one who said no got married, for the first time, last year, and seems happy. My wife is way into me in ways that the former girlfriend never was, and I see my life as far happier with my wife than I ever was with the one who said no. She's not a bad person. I was just young and in love with someone who wasn't in love with me. It worked out for the best. I'm glad she said no. I'm confused. Your wife married you last year for the first time ever and you've been married for 22 years. My mother turned my father down, but didn't outright break up with him. She just wasn't sure about the marriage idea. She valued her independence and was nervous about commitment. No hard feelings, though. He called up the next day when she'd had more time to think about it, and she said yes after all. They celebrated 32 years of marriage last month. Just the fact that they could say those things to each other and still be respectful and friendly, loving, that's the key there. Mom didn't say yes for 6 months. Her parents had just gotten divorced, so she wasn't sold on the idea. She had said she wasn't really a fan of marriage, so I thought proposing non-marriage might be well received, and I wanted us to be together for the rest of our lives. So I asked her not to marry me. She said no. We have been married for 10 years. Pulled the Olay reverse card on her. Oh, I like this a lot. We actually got married, moved in together. 2 weeks later, she moves out, blocks me everywhere and never gave me a reason. Shortly after I was served with papers. Now I'm divorced. That was last summer and not sure where I am now. Making work my main priority for now. I just want to know why for some closure, but that's too far gone now. The sudden departure is also common in bipolar SOS during mania. If you need anything PM anytime. The lack of closure is killer. In situations like this, odds are she told you why and you chose not to hear it. He didn't ask again, and I had to ask him instead. We married last year. Understandable why he didn't ask again. Glad you took the affirmative step to show you were ready to make that commitment instead of silently pondering and getting upset that he didn't ask you a second time. I was proposed to several times by men when I was living in the Middle East. I think they just went and found the next American girl to propose to. May I ask, where were you in the Middle East? I'm a Middle Eastern. Dealt with this when I lived in Senegal. Had a guy offer to me the position of his second wife and a local friend jokingly offered me for the US equivalent of $20. I was the person who said no. We had only known each other for 3 months and he was smitten. I was more cautious. I said no, I like you but it's way too soon. He asked when would be enough time. I said maybe a year. He proposed again at midnight, 1 year after we first met. I said yes and we have been together 8 years now. Edit. I know a year was still not a long time, but we had a long engagement and didn't get married for another 5 years. I was expecting this to go down in flames but ended up making me smile. Thanks a lot. Adorable story. My mom and dad were not married and wanted a kid and had me. My dad, being Catholic and Hispanic, decided he wanted to be married to my mom and proposed. She said no because she hadn't been divorced from her first husband for very long and now had 3 young kids and preferred to stay not married. He threatened to leave her and got on his motorcycle and started to drive away until my mom chased him down and gave in, leading to what my parents call the voodoo wedding the same day. I'm going to need more details about the voodoo wedding if you have them. Next time my wife says no to me buying motorcycle parts, this is what I'm doing. Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content. She was an art major and I had just joined the army. We had been lovers since high school. I asked, she said no. She wanted to get her master's. We were friends for a while but we don't talk anymore. She works as a bartender I think now. I ended up getting married to my best friend. We've been married for more than a decade and have a 5-year-old son. Getting married to your best friend? Is it possible to learn this power? Master bartender. Woo. Grinning face with tightly closed eyes. I started reading this thread expecting to feel sad, but instead ended up feeling joyful after reading so many wholesome stories. Sort by new, it's a little sadder down here. Same. I think I needed the uplifting stuff more than the downers. It was really bad for a while. Then it was really bad. Then it became really bad. Then it became bad. Then it was just blah. Then it was neutral. Then things started to get better. They continued to get better by me learning to be happy and me doing me things. I eventually found someone else, and things have been getting better for 20 years now. Love, life and time. Great synopsis. I'm happy for you. How much time does it take? Kinda broke up a couple months ago. Still ducking hurts. I never saw her again. Less than a year later I met my wife. We've been together 15 years. Cheers M8. My mother told my father no 3 times. On the 3rd time he got wasted at a local bar and basically started pouring his heart out to anyone who'd listen. Mind you, it's a very small village in the Italian Alps and my father barely spoke Italian and no one in the village spoke English, including my mother. Word got back to my mom about this sad American at the bar, so she went to find him and she told him she'd marry him. My parents celebrated their 44th anniversary last month. This sounds like a genuinely romantic movie. Duck. This is the truest form of love. We were living together. I asked. She said no. I love you but I need to think about it. I don't think I'm ready yet. Can you give me some time and ask later? A few months go by. I ask again. Same response. A few more months. Same deal. A couple more weeks and then she says, hey, what do you think of us getting married? I replied, that's an excellent idea. Why didn't I think of that? Our 39th anniversary is next month. I was expecting the story to get worse and worse but it ended up better. Congrats. What kills me is the whole that's an excellent idea. Why didn't I think of that? Mine is a little different. Mine said that she wasn't ready yet and asked me to wait and be patient with her. It helped that knew she had some issues with commitment and change. So I played the long game and waited her to make a decision. It took 3 years and the birth of our daughter for her to come up to me one day and say that getting married was interesting to her. 1 more kid and 21 years later we are still happily married. That's really sweet. All I know was that I was in kindergarten LMAO. My kindergarten crush said yes and then a teacher made fun of us and then I don't think we talked again. Dim sum, but especially chung fan. It's my favorite dim sum dish. It's just shrimp wrapped in rice noodle with a sweet dipping sauce. But oh my god is it delicious. Dim sum is generally pretty inexpensive and there's so many dumpling options to choose from. I love this comment. Best response. Depression and suicide attempt 10 times. We both really liked each other until I heard slot of text messages from a stranger saying, when do you want to meet up next day? I proposed and she said no, I've already got someone else. She walked away and I've never been the same person. Just because someone burned you doesn't mean you deserve to be on fire. Sometimes it just means you got touched by the, or a, wrong person. I feel you, man. Take care. Just remember, she obviously wasn't the right one if she did that to you. It takes time, but there's someone special out there for you.
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.
I asked again, 7 times. She finally said yes so long as I agreed to feed her. She was pregnant and hungry. Well, did you feed her or did she starve? It was the 2nd grade and the girl's name was Christina and she was in my class. I asked her if she would marry me and she said no. I did the only reasonable thing. I told the teacher on her. I remember when I was playing soccer with some classmates and when we scored a goal some guy called a teacher on us, LOL. LOL. I asked my wife. She knew it was coming. Got down on one knee. She said no. I blanched. She said just kidding, I swear it. We've been married 22 years last April. Every once in a while just for fun I bring it up. And she always apologizes. LOL. Whoa. Will you marry me? No. Psych. That's something to bring up every anniversary. My mum and dad had been dating for a few months when my mum proposed to my dad. He said no, not until he gets a proper job and can provide. A month later, he'd secured a job. They celebrated 32 years of marriage last month. A man's man. I respect it. I proposed to my husband several times before he did. I know this question was specifically targeting hetero males, but this applies. He stated he wanted to marry me, but not right away. We were together almost 5 years before he said yes. I wasn't going to give up on this man. That's really sweet. I wasn't going to give up on this man. Red heart suit. Hey, bro. Love is love. Red heart. Thank you for sharing your love story with us. How long have you all been together now? My mother told my girlfriend not to marry me. For her sake, we've been married 48 years and retired now. Doing well. Why did your mom try to sabotage you? Not me, but my teacher proposed to another techer in the middle of all their colleges and she said no. On that day all his lessons were just silence and the techer just sitting in front of the class doing nothing. Everyone in the whole school knew it. Sounds like a terrible idea in the first place. Yes, finally one of these that I can relate to. We met through family and I asked her to marry me. Made a romantic video and asked. She said she would think about it. Ignored me for 2 weeks and then said she thought about it and that she just didn't feel ready but wanted to be friends afterwards. Now here is the crazy part. For the longest part she was the one driving me crazy with marriage. SOOO happy we never got married. We met through family, excuse me? Well, between you and me, I grabbed a beer and watched Blazing Saddles, where Eagles Dare also works. The only right answer. My buddy proposed and she said, ugh, okay. Well, I don't want to be the kind of girl that says no. They're divorced. Just the kind of girl who'll take a backseat and watch things blow up. Huh.
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.
My dad kept trying and was eventually successful when he stopped using onion rings. Eventually successful when he stopped using onion rings. Oh my god, I'm dying. Not quite what you asked, but my girlfriend at one time, 5 or 6 years ago, screamed at me during an argument, "I'll never marry you," to which I responded, "You don't hear me asking. We got married this past January. Sounds like chemistry. Congratulations." I tried again. Actually, the first time was a joke. The second time was not. We broke up as we wanted different things and some things happened that messed us up a bit. We are getting married for legal reasons due to current medical problems because I don't want my family to be able to interfere. We are already basically considered married in my country due to de facto laws. But we just want this so everything is as airtight as it can be. Man, I made that mistake once. I hope you are compatible at least. We continued to date for a few more years. I proposed again, and she said yes that time. We now have 2 children and have been a couple for 11 years. It happened more than 20 years ago. In the beginning I was hit pretty badly. It was a kick at my heart. Had known her for just 3 years, but loved her so much. After the no, it took me a couple of years to get over it. But I was really looking her with rose-colored glasses. She totally wasn't what I imagined, or what I needed, so I send my blesses every time I happen to think of her. I was the person who said no. We got into a big fight and I went to the kitchen to clean and get my mind straight. He eventually came into the kitchen but then proposed. We were young but I was really surprised. Also, to anyone proposing, I recommend not doing that as a way to try and patch things up. Nabra. Out of context tip, you should both agree that you're going to propose from beforehand and the proposal should just be a nice surprise of when and how, not if. She lived in my apartment, didn't pay rent or utilities. My doorman escorted her to get her things and didn't let her back in. Marry the doorman. Your doorman is a bro. Thanks to her, dodge a bullet. People who surprise their partners with engagements. Why do you think it's okay to force someone to make a major, life-changing legal decision on an emotionally stressful snap decision? No proposal should be a surprise. You discuss marriage as a couple and eventually both agree that you want it. Then, one day, one of you then surprises the other with a proposal. You know it will be a yes because you spoke about it like adults. I also see far too many stories here where someone realizes their so is cheating and so they propose the next day. Yeah, don't do that.
Nice. Please smash the subscribe button to enjoy daily AskReddit content.